You're listening to the Engaged Club podcast, where we believe that engagement of members, staff, and managers is the key to a thriving club.
Our aim is to help you become a better club manager by giving you practical, actionable club management and marketing advice.
I'm Roger Kincaid. I'm the marketing director at Off Course Golf. We make member and customer engagement tools for club managers that make growth and prosperity their business. You can find out more about what we do at offcourse.golf.
And I'm Jim Hope. I've been managing clubs and working in the hospitality business for nearly 40 years. I now proudly serve the members of the Derrick Golf and Winter Club in Edmonton, Alberta as their GM and COO.
Hey, Jim, we've read a lot of books. You and me probably read a lot of books that we try to read them to enrich ourselves, right? And I read a lot of marketing books. I'm curious to know if you read a lot of club management books.
Yeah, I'm not so sure they're specific to club management as they are customer service and or business development. But yeah, I'm a big fan of customer service books and learning from the experts on how to be better at what we do.
Yeah, and that's really what it's about, right? It's about finding a book that you can, take one or two or three things out of that then you can apply to your daily routine that's going to make you, a better manager. Or, if you're even just a server in the dining room at a club, like finding that nugget of wisdom that's going to elevate what you do and allow you to reach your potential on a better level, right?
Yeah, you bet. And it's, not, and I'm sure with books that you read too, not everything resonates with you, right? I mean, this might be an expert in their field, but what they're talking about or what they're suggesting or the principles they're trying to present may not resonate with you personally. And so I try to find books that resonate with me and what my customer service philosophy is. And I want to develop that and enhance it and change it. But bottom line is that I need to believe what they're saying. I need to believe them, and I need to believe what they're saying will work in our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Settle in. Jim and I have got a hand-picked selection of 8 books that we believe that if you read them, it will make you better at what you do, managing your club or working at a club, delivering that great experience to your members. You're listening to the Engaged Club podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Canadian Society of Club Managers. Jim, let's turn some pages.
Okay, Roger. So my first selection is The Nordstrom Way. And it was a book that was written, almost a biography of the Nordstrom family and the development of the Nordstrom department stores and what their customer service philosophy is. Have you ever been in a Nordstrom's, by the way?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've been in a couple different tiers of Nordstrom.
Yeah, and they were, a Seattle-based company, right? I think is where they started and where their first store was. And I picked up this book. I'll never forget. I picked it up at the airport in Vancouver. I was on my way to Hawaii for my second ever CMAA international conference. And we were going in about 4 days ahead of time, myself and a pal. And we were just going to hang out on the beach and just kind of relax. And I picked up this book, and it was done by the time I got off the airplane. And I reread it on the beach again. And it really is, it got into the depth of the Nordstrom service philosophies. But at the end of the day, it was just a series of stories that illustrated how important they thought customer service was and different things that different members of their team had done for individual customers that just illustrated what the company stood for.
You ready for my book number 2?
Yeah, I want to hear number 1 with you.
So this is an easy one. It's an oldie and a goldie, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I mean, this book is almost 100 years old now, and it really is in so many ways like the manual for being a person of influence, being instantly likable, understanding what makes people tick, what makes them respond, and just how to generally get the best out of people around you, whether you've been working with them for years or whether you've really just met them for the first time. I am of the opinion, Jim, and I'd be curious to know what you think of this, but this is a book that should be in the break room at virtually every place of business. And this is a great gift to give to new hires.
Yeah. And what's interesting is people don't have a tough time wrapping their head around something that has the age of a book like that. That they think, it can't still be relevant. But I mean, what Dale Carnegie talked about in that book is, just simple core values that everybody should have as an individual, as a human. And those don't change over time.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely timeless. Yeah. What's your next book?
Well, the next one I got is it's an oldie but goodie as well, called The Raving Fan by Ken Blanchard. It was written in 1993, and it's written in a fable format. And Ken had the 3 secrets to creating a raving fan, and the 3 secrets were: decide what you want. That's as the business. Then discover what the customer wants, number 2, and then deliver your vision plus 1%. He never thought you needed to go crazy, 110%. He said just deliver on your promises and then just give a little bit extra. And it's a book, it's a storytelling book. And I was invited to a seminar by one of my directors when I was at the Nanaimo Golf Club, my first club I ran. And it was at 6:30 in the morning. He was with RBC Dominion Securities, and they had hired Ken Blanchard to talk across Canada. Long story short, heard Ken Blanchard talk. They gave us a copy of the book on the way out the door. I went home. I was home by like 7:45, started to read the book, called the office, the club, and said, I won't be until noon. Finished reading the book and then read it again the next day. And within 2 weeks, had a raving fan service program implemented at the club because I just thought the book was so great. And so it's one, and you talk about one in a lunchroom. This is one that could sit in the lunchroom as well, and people could read the whole book during lunch.
Wow. I'm gonna have to one up your reading speed here. My next book is Influence by Robert Cialdini. And it's funny to say like he wrote the book on so and so, but in this case, like Robert Cialdini really wrote the book on influence. I picked up this book on a Monday morning at 10 o'clock, and by 10:30 I'd already read it 3 times.
This is in an audio format at 6 times the regular speed.
So this book, Influence, it talks about the 6 principles of persuasion, and those principles are reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus. And when you read this book, you start to understand a lot about the basic psychology that makes people see things your way. Zig Ziglar, who's one of my favorite, sales icons. I love watching his YouTube videos. He talks about how like everything is selling, right? Like he's got this great story about his daughter wanting to go to the grocery store with him. And he said, well, I'm just going to run out, sweetie, and come right back. And she said, oh, but Daddy, I'll miss you. And so he tells this story to say that my daughter was selling me on the idea of taking her to the store. That anecdote from Zig really resonated with me when I was reading Influence by Robert Cialdini, because it really made me understand psychologically what was at play there in each of those interactions. And it's a great book if you have a team to lead, or if you've got a membership that sometimes you have to convince things of, or a board that you have to talk to. It helps you speak their language, and it helps you understand how you need to talk to them to get them on your side to see things your way.
That's really interesting. And what I liked was were they called rules?
The principles of persuasion. Principles
was reciprocity.
Yes.
I took a seminar once called The Noun of Social Reciprocity about how you put people in a position to say yes. And I put that into my life, and I use it often, like almost daily. And that's really an interesting principle that he has. Mm-hmm. Next one for me is Setting the Table by Danny Myers. Danny Myers is a restaurateur in New York who owns the Union Square Restaurant Group. I think it's the US or something. He's got about 6 restaurants in New York. He also has the Shake Shack, which is unbelievable. It started off as a summer burger joint in one of the parks in New York, in Manhattan area, and ends up a public company today. We were in New York and went to 2 of Danny's restaurants, 3 of his restaurants actually, after I read his book, because it was one of those where I want to say, yeah, this all sounds great, man, but let me just see if you actually, you do this in your restaurants. And he does. So if you're in the service industry, it's about hospitality, not service. And I've told stories in previous podcasts about some of the things that Danny and his team have done. But if you are in the hospitality industry, you need to read this book, because this is a guy that walks the talk, and lives, and his team lives what he talks about every single day. My next book, I guess this is book 6, is called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. This is a really easy read. You'll blow right through it at Jim Hope speeds. But it's really about why messages resonate, why they work, and why they stick around, right? So, if you kind of think back over the last
just give yourself 10 years of seeing television commercials or 20 years of seeing TV commercials. Some of them really, resonate with you. You'll remember them to this day. You might be able to have a conversation, at a pub and say, hey, do you remember the commercial for so-and-so? And, oh yeah, I remember that one. How could I forget it? There's a science and a psychology behind why some things stick with us forever and why others don't. And Chip and Dan Heath really break it down. And it's one of those books that kind of, you realize as you're reading it that I think I knew that, or this has worked on me in the past. And you can sort of understand through your own personal experience why the concepts that they're presenting to you, why they work and how they've worked on you in the past. So I think it's a really powerful book. It's a great book for anybody who ever has to do a presentation to a group. That could just be a team meeting before a service or a seminar or some sort of a talk before your peers in your club management circle, for example. This is a really great book to read to help you understand how your message can best land with your subjects and resonate with them for time to come.
Well, it sounds like it's also really important if you're making a presentation to your board on something that you want to do as well.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, look, if you've got to talk to someone and convince people of something, it's really important to you and to the longevity of your club and to your membership. Ultimately, this is a really, really good book to pick up. Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath.
Well, Roger, I may see you this weekend. Is there a chance I could borrow that book from you? It sounds like one I'd love to read.
If I can dig it up, I think it might be out on loan. But yeah, absolutely. At the very least, I'll shoot you the audio book or a Kindle book.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, man. My next book, which is number 7 in our list, is Good to Great by Jim Collins. This was a business book that was written, I'm going to say, Jim, about 10 years ago, but I think it's a book that's been read by every business leader in North America. And what Jim studied, 1,435 companies over a period of 40 years. And what he did was he focused on companies like Coca-Cola, who have been great and are leaders in their field. And he only studied companies that were leaders in the field to see what similarities that they had. And at the end of the day, he came up with sort of 3 real disciplines that he found with all these people, that they had disciplined people, meaning they always had the right people on the bus. And if they didn't, they got them off the bus. Their people had very disciplined thoughts about what it is they were doing for the company and where the company was going, and they never got sidetracked. And they disciplined actions, meaning that they understood the importance to achieve what they needed to and what isn't important, and they only stuck to what was important. And one of the things that Jim said, which you hear a lot of today, is that good was the evil of great. That so many companies said, "Oh no, we're doing really good." All right, well, no, you don't want to be doing really good. You want to be doing really great. And if you're doing good, you need to blow yourself up to figure out what you need to do to become great. Like sort of build yourself up so you could break through to become a great company. So it is a storytelling book again about these different businesses that he researched, and it's really it's a thick read, but it's a really great read.
Cool. My last book, Jim, for this 8 books that we think you can read to make yourself a better club manager, is this one flew under the radar for me. Actually, I hadn't heard of it until Amazon suggested it to me based on something else I bought, and I'm glad they did. This book's called Sticky Branding, and it's by Jeremy Miller. And it's really just a, kind of a high level, maybe not high level, it gets a little bit in depth, but it talks about branding, why branding is important to a business or to a club, and how branding is done really particularly well. And it talks a lot about it at the execution at ground level. So one of the examples that I'll give that I just loved about this book was Purdy's Chocolates. So, up here in Canada, we've got these chocolate shops there, in several Canadian cities. It's called Purdy's, and they're kind of higher end chocolate store, right? But when you go in there, the staff, they're trained not to ask you questions like, "Can I help you find something?" or "Is there something in particular you're looking for?" Rather, the questions they're trained to ask are, "Which one is your favorite, and who are you buying this gift for?" Who are you sending these chocolates to? And the difference is that one is transactional, the other is experiential, right? And the brand that they're trying to create with Purdy's is one where, you don't come to this store just to buy chocolate. You come to this store to send very special memories and create very special memories. So that's just one example. There's a ton of really great examples about how strong companies look after their branding, how they reinforce it at ground level, and how they dream it up in the first place. I was really impressed with this book, especially for a book that I hadn't heard of. It's called Sticky Branding. It's by Jeremy Miller. And if branding is something that's important at your club, this is a great place for you to start, a great book for you to start with.
Well, I think it's a great read for club managers, because part of all strategic planning today at all clubs is having a branding discussion. So this could be a good read to have, especially if you're going into the strategic planning process. Maybe it's a good read before you do that.
Hey, if you want the list of books that Jim and I just rattled off, we'll even help you out by sending you some links where you can pick it up on Amazon. Just go to the show notes on this episode at engageclub.com. You can just type into your browser engageclub.com/books, and you'll be taken right to the page with this episode and that book list.
We really hope this episode is a big help to you. If you know somebody else that could benefit from this episode, please share it, and let's grow together.
Yeah, the archive of this podcast is available at engagedclub.com, where you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Slack space for more discussion. And of course, we'd always like to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas, comments, anything you have to say via email at hello@engagedclub.com. Thanks for listening.